Well, it's a privilege to talk with you this morning at the Entrepreneurs of Iowa webinar event. Very exciting. My name is Drew McCombe. Over the past 40 years, I've been involved in the ministry as a pastor and also for a number of years as an independent business owner and corporate manager. I held different positions as a CEO, COO, and such as that. And I'm currently the pastor of the famous Little Brown Church in Nashua, Iowa. And I'm also the president and founder of a ministry called Aim for the Highest, which is a ministry that we're developing right now to enable business leaders and pastors and their leaders to access video teaching, seminars, printed documents that will help them develop and sustain their business. It's named after the motto that I had in my high school, which was Summa Patenda, the Latin for aim for the highest. And the whole goal is to get people not to settle, but to keep climbing, to keep developing their ministry or keep developing their business. And so you can also follow my podcast, which is on every weekday morning, called Morning Brew with Pastor Drew. It's on the Little Brown Church's Facebook page. And you can see that at 8 a.m. every weekday morning. Most of us know what an epitaph or a eulogy is. An epitaph is something that you write on the headstone of someone who's died, someone who's passed on. And I love the story of the henpecked husband who passed away, and before he died, had the funeral home carve out a new headstone for him that said basically this: "Here lies John Smith, husband of Mary Smith, rest in peace." And then a couple of weeks later, his wife added another sentiment below that, which said, "Till we meet again." My wife and I, Jessie and I, were in LA staying for a while and went to one of the most famous cemeteries in Los Angeles. It's the one where Marilyn Monroe is interred. And we looked at that, and then we saw a couple of other famous people who were buried there. One was Merv Griffin. He's the guy that developed and founded Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy, things like that. And he used to say at the end of the broadcast, "I'll be right back after these messages." Well, his headstone simply says, "Merv Griffin, I won't be back after these messages." And then right next to him was a headstone of one of my favorite comedians, Rodney Dangerfield. And his headstone said, "Rodney Dangerfield, there goes the neighborhood." So a eulogy, on the other hand, is something that we say about someone who's died, usually after they've died. You know, what we say about folks after they die, I think, is important, but I want to suggest there's something even more important than that, and that is not just people saying nice things about you when you're dead, but people saying nice things about you while you're still alive. And so I had the opportunity a number of years ago to fly to Scotland, where I'm from, for my father's 90th birthday party that the church were hosting. It was a great event. I was the keynote speaker, so I did something very different. I stood up and told the people there, I'm not going to do a particular speech. What I'm going to do is my father's eulogy while he's still alive. And so I had the opportunity to say all these things about my dad. He was a wonderful man of God, great guy. And then when he passed away 7 years later, I was also invited back to be the keynote speaker at his memorial service. And I told the folks there, well, I'm not going to do another eulogy. What I'm going to do is just give you a 7-year update of what he was up to in the last 7 years before he passed away. So saying something positive about someone while they're still alive is really, really important. The words that we speak are very powerful. Words can build people up and words can destroy people. I've seen friendships that have lasted for decades being destroyed just because of a few hurtful words. So this morning I want to talk to you about the power of encouragement. Power of encouragement. It comes from an old French word, prefix and then courage, which means courage, of course. And so basically the word means to put or place or breathe courage into other people. It's so, so important. So being a Christian pastor as well as a businessman, I'm going to draw some of my examples from characters in the Bible. So here's what I want to share with you this morning. We desperately need encouragement to get started, to get going. You know, as you well know, starting a new business is not easy. It can be risky. It can be nerve-wracking. It can be stressful. It can sometimes be lonely being an entrepreneur. But every new business needs a solid start and some positive traction early on. And so I want you to think about entrepreneurship in this way, that the first apostles, if you will, were all entrepreneurs. The church at that time was in its infancy. There was no great organization, no hierarchy. As we see in some denominations today, there was no pope or archbishops or cardinals or moderators. But the church was growing exponentially. And one day, the church grew from 120 people to 3,120 people. And it's been estimated by some historians that the church could have grown to 10 to 12,000 people or 20,000 people in the next few weeks. Talk about scaling. It's just amazing. And they were able, without much organization, to take care of the needs of all the new believers. There was not, the Bible says, a needy person among them, because people basically just helped themselves. They were trying to be a blessing to other people. In the midst of all of that, there was a lot of opposition. Most people thought they were a bunch of religious nuts. Some were upset at this new enterprise because it was messing with the status quo, and many were opposed to what they were trying to accomplish. And as an entrepreneur, you've probably experienced all of that. Not everyone's in favor of what you do. Not everyone understands what you're trying to achieve. And so sometimes you've got to power through all the discouragement. And in those days, you need encouragement more than I guess we actually know. And this early church needed a lot of encouragement to get going, this new religion off the ground. And so God sent along a man called Barnabas. He probably is the greatest example in the New Testament of encouragement. His story, if you want to look it up, is found in the book of Acts in the New Testament. So who was this guy? Well, first of all, there's no book in the Bible with his name on it. Secondly, there are actually no accounts in the Bible of him saying anything at all. None of his statements were ever recorded in the scriptures. But he was on the ground floor of this startup called the church. And he was a key figure in getting things going. And he did that simply by going around encouraging people. And here's an interesting fact. Barnabas wasn't his real name. His real name was Joseph. Barnabas actually was a nickname that was given to him by the apostles. And Barnabas, believe it or not, means son of encouragement. That spirit of encouragement that he caught was manifested through the whole church. Everyone seemed to catch it in those early days. And he was one of the major carriers. Barnabas, in a sense, was like the typhoid Mary of the early church, the super spreader of this new religion. So Entrepreneurs of Iowa has been established to facilitate entrepreneurs across the state to connect with each other, to share ideas with each other, to encourage budding entrepreneurs to get started on the road, and to encourage those already in business who are managers or CEOs to develop and to grow and to scale their business. I think encouragement is something that keeps us standing up and moving ahead. To use a musical cliche, encouragement is the wind beneath our wings. And it's amazing how a small word of encouragement given, especially when you're going through a difficult time, can take us a long way. Just as we can't survive without air, without food, without water, without shelter, so a business, or a church for that matter, can't remain healthy or grow without a healthy spirit of encouragement around. So I want to talk about why we need encouragement. Well, we need encouragement not just to get started, not just to get things off the ground, but to maintain, to keep going, to grow, to develop. And the reason for that, I think, is very simple. And that is there is so much discouragement going around. You just need to watch the news any day. The vast majority of news broadcasts don't always focus on things that are uplifting. It's usually something that happened that's negative that either the government or maybe even the police have to deal with. Some people, sadly, are so pessimistic about their outlook. They're like people who could look at a donut and all they see is the hole, rather than people trying to fill the holes in other people's issues, their problems, to make things better. Jim Rohn, who was an American entrepreneur a number of years ago, has passed away a few years back, said this. He said, "Discouragement is a thief. It steals your vitality, steals your joy, steals your zeal, and steals your peace and content." You know, launching and developing a new business or a new ministry or whatever you're doing can be full of excitement. It can be a great thing. Those early days of business and can just be exhilarating. The new challenges, a new thing, a new idea that you're and grabbing hold of. But at times it can also be full of discouragement. And here's what I've learned over the years, 40 years of being in the ministry and in corporate business, is that discouragement, just like encouragement, is infectious. It infects people and affects people in different ways. But the problem is that discouragement not only affects you, it affects other people, the people around you as well. It's like an epidemic. And so it's important that we have a healthy stream of encouragement coming into our life, especially when we're starting a new business, or maybe you've taken over a new church, or whatever you're doing. That spirit of encouragement needs to be there to enable you to keep going. So there was this guy called Noah. And if you will, Noah was also an entrepreneur. He started a brand new business. It was called boat building. He was the first of his kind. The thing was that this was something nobody had seen before. There hadn't been rain. Nobody knew what a boat was. And so God gave Noah all these instructions to build this thing that he had never seen before. Oh, and by the way, it took about 75 years for him and his family to build this. Nail upon nail, board upon board. And through those 75 years, there was a lot of naysayers. A lot of his neighbors would look at him and saying, well, what are you doing? What is this thing you're building? What's it for? Well, he would say, God told me to do it because there's going to be a flood. And nobody believed that either. But yet, despite all the discouragement, despite all the opposition, he kept on building that boat, nail by nail, board by board, despite the constant discouragement from his neighbors. Here's a lesson for all of us who are entrepreneurs, in whatever space you're in. Not everyone will get what you're trying to do. Not everyone will jump up and say, whoa, that's a fantastic idea. I just want to get on board with that. I want to invest some money. I want to invest my time, my talent in helping you with that. Some people just won't get it. They'll think it's silly because it may be something that nobody else has seen before. We need encouragement when we don't see results right away. And that's one of the most important times that we need that. It's when we're laboring and working and nothing seems to be really happening. You're pouring your life and soul into this new business, and yet nothing's evident that looks successful. There's actually a special bamboo in China that once planted doesn't grow for 4 years. However, you got to water it. You got to cultivate it through those 4 years, even when you see no growth at all. On the 5th year, however, it starts to grow, and if it's continually tended to, that bamboo will grow sometimes to 90 feet tall. The thing is, if you neglect it in the first 4 years, it'll never grow. One of my heroes, secular heroes that is Winston Churchill, the former Prime Minister of Britain that led Britain through World War II. And I've got a whole number of books, biographies of Churchill, some of the things he wrote himself. And one of the things that he said, one of his quotes that many people I've heard, but I want to share it with you. He said this: success is not final, is not fatal. It's the courage to continue that counts. There's that word again, courage. It's the courage to continue that counts. You see, sometimes our plans don't always work out the way we wanted them to, but we need to remember Churchill's words. Failure is not fatal. In fact, I think it was Henry Ford that said, failure is only an opportunity to begin again more intelligently. So Churchill says failure is not fatal. It's the courage to continue that counts. And most often that courage to continue comes from other people encouraging us to keep on keeping on. They breathe courage into our life, enabling us to move forward. I think it's important as we develop, as we see this ministry here, this business opportunity to be involved in with Entrepreneurs of Iowa, I think it's important that we realize that we need to encourage each other. We need to get out of our box, if you will, our safety zone, and go and encourage other entrepreneurs in their challenge to help them through the difficulties that they obviously experience. You know, planting a new business, getting something started has a lot of difficulties, a lot of challenges, sometimes a lot of disappointments. And we need others around us who are sometimes in a similar situation to be able to come alongside and say, hey, you know, Don't quit. Don't give up. Keep on keeping on. And so I really want to, encourage you all to encourage your fellow entrepreneurs. And if you're already in business and you're a manager, to encourage your employees. My sister-in-law used to live in Southern California. She was in Riverside and had a fairly large business there with a lot of employees. And I was there consulting for her one time. And she talked about how could she incentivize her employees. Should she give a extra bonus check at Christmas time or some kind of gift certificate or whatever else? And I suggested, no, don't do that. Here's an idea. Why don't you get in your car, drive down to San Diego, meet with your crew down there and take them for lunch? I said, you got to remember, when you turn up, they'll probably be scared to death because they'll think that you came down there to reprimand them because something was going wrong on the job. Once you get through that, take them out for lunch. And I guarantee they'll be talking about that much longer than if you just gave them a check. And that actually happened. She did. She drove down to San Diego, took them out for lunch. And those guys apparently were talking about it in months and years to come, how the boss came down just for them to take them out for lunch and to be a blessing to them. Back in '82, Ken Blanchard and Spencer Johnson came out with a book. Most of you would know what it is. It's called The 1 Minute Manager. And the goal of the book was to recount the 3 techniques of an effective manager. If you want to be effective in managing people, they were postulating this is how you do it. And so they came up with 3 things. The first one was 1-minute goals. And basically that was you need to set clear, measurable goals, specific goals with measurable performance standards that are written down and can be reviewed in a minute, 60 seconds. The goals need to clearly define what success actually looks like and when it should come. And the encouragement was to review these goals on a regular basis. Then they talked about 1-minute reprimands, and that is to address immediately and specifically complaints, problems they have with their employee with regard to job performance, not the person themselves, but their performance. And not going on and on and on. I worked for a guy at one point that he would reprimand his employees, but he would go on and just wear the people down. My encouragement to him was, say it one time. Just make it clear and succinct and don't go on, because you'll just bore somebody to death or just make them more and more annoyed and less of an efficient worker. Address mistakes immediately. The goal was, once the reprimand was over, that the manager and the employee could move forward together with renewed confidence in each other. But I think the most important thing they wrote was the thing that came before the 1-minute reprimand, and that was called the 1-minute praising. And that is where the manager would first of all point out something, find something positive in that person's performance and give them immediate praise for that. And then allow them a moment or two just to let that soak in, to feel good about their achievement and to reaffirm your commitment to them and your confidence in them before any potential reprimand that you might make. The 1-minute praising is basically encouragement. The best PIP, the best PIP, the best performance improvement plan that I know for failing employees needs to include words of encouragement. If you're just going all the time to your employee, whether you're a startup, if you're a defined business, and just rag on them all the time, it's going to go nowhere. We need to find ways to encourage people to do better, to use the title I have for my ministry, to aim for the highest, to not settle where you are, but to keep on climbing, developing your ministry or your business. Somebody once said there's really 3 types of people: those who make things happen, those who watch things happen, and the third group are those people who wonder what just happened. So let me ask you this morning, what kind of entrepreneur, what kind of CEO, what kind of manager do you want to be? Do you want to be the kind that watches things happen? Do you want to be the kind that wonders what just happened? Or do you want to be the kind that makes things happen? My encouragement to all of you is to be the kind of entrepreneur, the kind of manager that takes the initiative. That's the one that takes the initiative to encourage other people. Now, sometimes we can sit and just wait for people to come our direction and encourage us when we need encouragement. Let me suggest this to you. Why don't you take the initiative, even if you're discouraged about something, to encourage someone else, to, in a sense, pay it forward, and so become available to receive encouragement, or qualified, I should say, to receive encouragement from other people. I'm a great believer in as you sow, you receive. And so it's important that even when things are not going great, when you're in the midst of problems and developing the company or whatever else, and you feel kind of discouraged, rather than wallow in our discouragement, why don't you take the initiative to go and encourage someone else who maybe is in a similar or even worse situation? That could be as simple as a text. That could be as simple as a phone call. That can be as simple as taking someone out for lunch and having a chat with them. You'll be amazed at the effect of a simple word of encouragement, or just spending time with that person, that they'll know that there's someone out there thinking about them, that in the same boat, trying to develop things in a parallel way, but that person took the time to come along and to encourage you. Remember, Barnabas, his nickname meant son of encouragement. It was given to him by the apostles. They gave it to him because that was the kind of man he was. It wasn't just what he did, it was what was inside. He had a ministry of encouragement to other people. That's how he thought, and that's how he lived. So let me ask all of you this question. What nickname would you like people to give to you? Would you like, I don't know, Bob the corporate whiz kid, Susan the IT guru, Paul the AI entrepreneur? It's all good, but I want to suggest there's something better than that. How about John or Sue or Peter or Sally or Tom the encourager? That you're known to be that kind of person. Here's another thing I've learned over the years about people who are like that. People want to be around them. People don't like being around doubters. They don't like being around people who are discontent all the time. People who are discouraging. People like to gather around those that can bring life, that breathe courage into their situation. You can build a strong company by building strong employees. And the best way I know to build strong people is to encourage them. So my encouragement to you this morning, if you want to be a successful entrepreneur, an effective CEO, a wise manager, you might want to consider being like Barnabas, being an encourager.